What is going on, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. And joining me here, as always, is Caleb Miles of Caleb Says Stuff. What's up, Caleb?
What up, man? Sorry, I was reading a stupid anime meme on Twitter because I'm a professional.
Anime memes, huh?
Yeah, always good for stuff.
That's Instagram is like my favorite new thing, just simply because of all of the great memes that I follow. Like, there's these people that put out fucking hilarious memes. I actually send them to you probably all the time.
Yes, and I need to follow the people because it says I can't see them.
Oh, tighten up, bro. Yeah. That shit's good. I would only ever send you high quality. That's one thing you can rate. One thing you can be sure about me is always going to be high quality. So yeah, man, before we get into the podcast, we've got our usual stuff planned for today where we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we've been watching over the past week and then talk a little bit about movie news. We've got a topic that this week picked out where we're going to discuss video game movie adaptations because it ties into one of the stories that we're going to be discussing. And we're also going to kind of flip it and talk about maybe some movies that would make good video games, because I don't feel like that's a conversation that comes up quite as much. But before we get started, man, I feel like I hadn't really caught up with you about all of the treatment and stuff that you've been going through. Just to catch everybody up, a couple of months ago, Caleb was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and you were pretty proactive about it. You went and you got the treatment that you needed, and things went well. You were able to set up a GoFundMe and stuff, and people did donate. But kind of tell me where you're at with that whole process. Has it come to an end? Are you still dealing with the repercussions? What's going on, man?
So, as of yesterday, so yeah, I went in and I had the surgery. I don't think my camera's high quality enough, but I got a nice scar here and a nice scar on the back of my neck. I went in and got my thyroid removed, so now I have to take levothyroxine, which is a thyroid supplement because, well, I have a thyroid to produce thyroid hormones anymore, so I have to take that.
Can I say though, real quick, just to jump in the middle, the scars are damn sexy. It's like a rugged, they're like cool. A rugged action star kind of look you got going on. So just wanted to let you know that. But go ahead.
Well, it looks like I got stabbed with like a samurai sword in my throat, and it came out the back.
And fucking live, dude. Cool. Yeah, for sure.
So that's my story I'm going with. But yeah, as of yesterday, we actually went to the doctor, and they gave me some great news, which is that I don't have to do radiation, which is awesome.
Good.
So from here on out, essentially, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do every 6 months, I'm going to have to go back and just get a cancer scan for the first 2 or 3 years. After that, I'm going to have to do it once a year for the rest of my life, just, because it always could come back. So overall, I mean, it's one of those things that I guess the way my doctor explained it is I can never really be like, I'm cancer free. It's just not the type of way it works, could always come back. But as of now, it seems like I have a pretty clean bill of health. Financially, I want to thank everyone who donated on the GoFundMe. It is still up on there. It's on my Twitter. It's actually pinned to my thing. You can always go in it. And because, yeah, we were able to take care of a lot of it. But, of course, more bills come in every day.
Yeah. This is an ongoing thing, like you said.
Well, and then I missed a ton of work, which was on top of bills, and then missing a ton of work and, getting everything. But I'm back at it. So, yes, I hate to be that type of person. But if you go to my Twitter, I'm sure we could throw a link somewhere. I would always be thankful. Even $1 helps. Anything I will take.
Yeah, and you're not the kind of person, as much as I know, you're not the kind of person that, feels good about asking for handouts. This is a situation where it's actually going to a good cause. I know you appreciate it. And,
100%.
It's a little bit more than just a Patreon or something like this. This is a matter of your health and your well-being, and I know that we all, value that and want that. And I did want to give a quick shout-out and a hello to both Hannah and our friend Ian, who are both in the chat right now. What's up, guys? It really means a lot that you stopped by. I hope you like my hobo look that I'm leaning into. Caleb hasn't had the pleasure of seeing it. Actually, maybe you do. Maybe he has the pleasure of seeing it. I got my beanie on. Rocking my fucking Gandalf beard. Looking real.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to go back and watch the video after we get off to see your hobo look.
I'll apologize ahead of time for that. But yeah, so I did. I just wanted to ask about that. It's been a pretty uneventful week for me so far, but Pensacon is coming up right around the corner, which is something I'm pretty excited about. It's a big time of year for me because I don't get to do a whole lot of fun stuff involved with movie and film and television and all of that stuff. But during Pensacon, I'm able to, host the film festival, which is something I'm always really excited to do. I get to do some of the fun celebrity panels and just go around and interact with fans that are excited about the same kind of stuff that we are. So I always look forward to seeing that. Always look forward to seeing you guys there. And if you do run into me, come and say what's up. I do know that we were recently approved for the 4th annual Terrible Movie Trivia, which is something that we've been doing at Pensacon for a little while now. And it's always been a lot of fun. So you guys stay tuned for that. I actually wanted to share the fact that I was doing that just in case you guys are out there at Pensacon. I wanted to let you know that there's a mobile app so that you can kind of schedule your events ahead of time instead of just going there and kind of roaming around the vendor floor, which is what a lot of people do. There's great photo ops. There's panels, which is where you're able to go and actually kind of have discussions with the people that are responsible for a lot of the things that you love. And then also we do game shows typically in the evening on Saturdays over at the Grand Ballroom. So I will keep you guys posted on times and locations for that. But yeah, pretty excited about that. And I also have another big announcement that I'm kind of holding close to the chest for right now, just in case it falls through. I don't want to look like an a-hole, but you know how that goes. Like I'm 90% sure that I've got something really dope to tell you guys, but that 10% chance is just enough to keep me holding off for right now. And also, me and Caleb did an episode of People Are Terrible. First one of 2019. I think we might refer to it as episode 1 of People Are Terrible, and I've submitted it to iTunes. So
and it already is on Stitcher as well.
Oh, good. So I felt pretty good about this last episode of the show. I know we broke it down into smaller segments and videos on YouTube, but you think we'll thrive in the audio space in this particular podcast, don't you?
Yeah, I think that, and I think this podcast actually would both do better in an audio space. It seems like that's we're a bunch of old farts. That's where older people go to listen to long, boring 2-hour conversations.
I'm no spring chicken these days. And yeah, like you said, our videos are long, and a lot of times it's like I see our average retention's like 2.5 minutes, so people will stop by and say what's up. And then they drop out. They don't stick around the whole time. Oh well, thank you, Ian. Looking real boy bandish, Jeremy. He says, "All right, I'll take that. That's fine. This is a Walmart beanie."
Is that a compliment?
I take it as one. Hey,
okay.
You use the word boy in anything associated with me. I think I just got Peter Pan complex. I'm like, oh shucks, you think I look young? That's nice. Whatever. Is that weird?
It's a little weird.
Right.
It's a little bizarre to want to be referred to as boy.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a little weird.
It's a good thing we're not live, man. I can just edit that shit out. You know what I mean?
I know, right? Yeah, nothing awkward can go wrong. Right?
All right. Anyways, so yeah, you guys keep an eye out for us on iTunes. Head over there and rate and review us if you do want to support the show, and also keep an eye out for. I'm trying to get us on Play and Spotify. Caleb says we're on Stitcher and whatever else the people are listening to. We're going to try to get our podcast available over there. We're going to be doing a lot more uploading this 2019. All that shit. Anyways, let's go ahead and move into the segment because we do got a lot of stuff to get to. So we're going to jump into our first topic, which is, as always, what are you watching? Caleb? Seen anything fun?
I've just been watching Lemony Snicket's the Lemony Snicket's
series of unfortunate events on Netflix.
Yeah, the Netflix. So I watched the first season a while ago, and then I started the second season and realized I don't remember any of the first season.
Been there, yeah.
So I had to go back, and I'm restarting it. And I've been watching, which is so horrible because it's not movie related. I've actually watched a ton of movies, but I've been watching Catfished on MTV or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen it.
That's an interesting show.
It's actually super good. Totally different than when I thought it was going to be. It was actually kind of interesting. But as far as movies, I did rewatch Unbreakable and Split.
Oh,
Get
cool.
ready for Glass because Unbreakable still is one of the best films ever. And Split is good. It's not near as good in my opinion. And then I watched. I watched Bird Box finally.
Oh, really? Okay, so what do you think about Bird Box, man?
I liked it. I do not understand all the hype about it, but I definitely enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. When I watched it, I was not by any means like, this is a bad movie or this is a great movie. I was just kind of like, it kind of reminded me of an episode of The Walking Dead in some ways. I know it wasn't exactly a zombie movie per se, but a lot of that same kind of idea of the true threat lies within, and people will do crazy things when they're in enclosed, like maybe The Mist or some shit. Anyways.
Mist, Happening, Walking Dead. Yeah. It's all of those.
Yeah. A lot of those things, but well done. So I gotta ask, man, and I know you're into anime, and I don't think you're necessarily the kind of like kaiju. I don't remember. I know we've had this conversation before, but have you been watching the Godzilla series on Netflix?
I watched the first movie. Absolutely loved it. Okay. Have not watched the second or third.
So I just now finished the third last night, and I do like all three of these. They kind of feel like they exist in an alternate universe, which is fine with me. You know, it's like a totally separate style of Godzilla storytelling, and it's really epic in scale, and it's very, very anime, which, it just gives it a different vibe. But King Ghidorah is in part 3, or some version of him, and while I didn't love the way that they portrayed that character, I like what they did. I just didn't like that that's who it was. I kind of have had to look at it as like, it's just some other kaiju. It's just some other monster that Godzilla's fighting, because it didn't really feel like King Ghidorah. But pretty fucking cool, man. I really enjoyed watching it. I think this whole trilogy has been essential watching for Godzilla fans, and something that's unique kind of in the same way that Shin Godzilla was.
It's definitely, it's a reboot. It's almost like what you would picture like an American reboot of Godzilla to be like, hey, we're taking the fact that Godzilla exists and we're rebooting everything else. That's kind of what this feels more like to me.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So that was one that I was into, and then I started one called You. It's a series. It's an interesting concept. It's kind of like they took the 80s rom-com formula and turned it on its head and turned it into some stalkery, kind of creepy TV series. Reminds me of Dexter, because it's all through the inner monologue of a protagonist who's really pretty rotten of a person, but you kind of like, you're forced to sympathize with him. So there were some cool elements of it. Then I found out it was like a Lifetime original, and for some reason that kind of fucked up my enjoyment of it a little bit. And now I've kind of flaked out on it. As the story went along, I just kind of stopped liking where it was going quite as much. So I haven't finished the season yet, but have you heard about that one?
Yeah, that's about the stalker one, right?
Yes,
right?
yes.
One? Yeah, so that's not a Netflix original?
No, it's not, and I was under the impression that it was. And there's been a lot of hype surrounding it. So Victoria had been the one that kind of wanted to check it out, and I stuck with it longer than she did. She was like, "This shit's cheesy, dude." So not a big glowing recommendation there.
Yeah, it looked kind of cool. It's definitely something I put it in my list. I just haven't watched it yet.
And then I finished season 3 of Channel Zero. Definitely the best season yet. If you guys are not subscribed to Shudder and you're horror fans, spend the $5 a month and get that just to watch. There's a bunch of good stuff on there. To watch Mandy, to watch Channel Zero. There's Revenge is on there. A bunch of good shit. So anyways, that was a good one. And then I went to the theaters and saw Mary Poppins about 8 days ago. Did I tell you that? Hey, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did I tell you that I went and saw Mary Poppins?
No. Was it good?
Lion King or something that came out around the time that I was a kid. I watched it a lot growing up. But anyways, all that to say, the new one was pretty good. It took me a minute to get acclimated to the, it's very musical theater. The songs just kick it off right off the bat, and it's It was well done. It wasn't one of my favorite movies, but it got me. I was enjoying it pretty good. Hannah says, "Oof, Mary Poppins." So does that mean you saw it and you're not a fan, or does that mean you just don't care about seeing it? I'm curious to know what your thoughts were. Because, by the end of it, it ended up winning me over. My favorite part of it is when they integrated the two-dimensional animation with the live action, similar to what they did in the original, as well as Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Only the technology's actually come a long ways, so they were able to do some pretty clever stuff while still keeping it, I don't know, true to the original. But so yeah, that summarizes what I've been watching. Anything else you want to throw in the mix before we jump into the weekly pop recap?
I think that's pretty much everything that I've been watching.
All right, well, here we go.
Jeremy?
That delay that we're experiencing right now, that's my fancy new graphics. I probably should have given you the heads up on that ahead of time. I was just now rolling some footage. Anyways, yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going on?
Here we go. Silence. So yeah, this week we've got some headlines, a couple of them involving our favorite web slinger, Spider-Man. That was a pretty bad analogy, probably been used quite a few times before. But anyways, yeah, there's been a Spider-Man Far From Home trailer released. It features the fact that Happy Hogan looks to be appeared heavily and kind of having a romantic interest in Aunt May. It looks like we're getting Nick Fury as the kind of connective tissue to Marvel this time around. Jake Gyllenhaal seems to be, I mean, he's playing Mysterio, so he seems to be like he'd be playing the villain, but then looks like he might be playing the hero in the trailer. Caleb, what are your thoughts on the actual trailer itself for Far From Home?
It looks all right. It looks like another MCU film. For me, I've always thought that Spider-Man is the MCU. He was even the MCU before they had Spider-Man. So I always say DC turned everything into Batman and Marvel turned everything into Spider-Man. So he makes perfect sense there. I didn't see Homecoming. I saw him in Civil War. I really actually liked him. I thought he was by far the best part of Civil War.
Okay.
My only complaint is I right away was watching it and I was like, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal's not going to be, he's going to be an anti-hero by the end of this, or at least a very, very sympathetic villain.
Okay. So the read that I got off of it, and this is just sheer speculation, is that Jake Gyllenhaal is manufacturing all of these elemental baddies to combat them, to make him seem like he is a hero when actually he's a villain. But that seems fairly predictable. So hopefully they'll do something to subvert it. I heard that they obscured the actual year that's on Peter Parker's passport to kind of throw people for a loop as to what time frame this takes place in, because the rest of the Avengers are not here. So does that mean we're talking about an alternate timeline, something to do with the time gem, or does it take place before Infinity War? I mean, what are we looking at there?
It's taking place after Endgame, 100%.
Okay.
Because it comes out after Endgame, right?
Yes, it does.
Oh yeah, 100%. They won't. No, Marvel won't do anything with like subverting timelines or anything. They don't want to do anything that's gonna confuse any casual moviegoer in any way, shape, or form. It'll 100% be after Endgame.
What do you think about the potential that Nick Fury himself is actually a projection from Mysterio?
Oh, I didn't even hear about that.
I actually think I can. I'm sure some other asshole said it, but I just thought about it before we started recording.
I mean, I think that's always a possibility. I mean, that's the thing about Mysterio is you can literally throw in anything, and it can be a projection from it.
Hannah Stark might be mentioned in the trailer. I only watched it 64 times beforehand, so I cannot confirm, nor did I. No, I watched it a couple times, but I do not recall. I'm sure Stark was mentioned in it because he does have such a close relationship with Peter. I like the new suits. I like a couple of the new suits. I think the Mysterio suit is very true to the comics, and what's funny is a couple of the students are like, he's like a mix between Iron Man and Thor, and that is
parts of that.
I think you're omitting the nerdy shit that you don't want to participate in.
I was just like, I heard, yep, something. He looks like Thor. That's what I heard. So
it just now said that the stream canceled, but then it resumed. Hannah, please let us know if you are still able to hear us. It looks like we are back to being on right now. When it gets to this point, I start to worry that maybe we should cut it short just so that we don't end up going out on a bad note. But yeah, I don't know. I think the suit is interesting. She says the suit is pretty. I can see that. It actually shows the ball on his head for a second there, which I thought was pretty cool. But okay, we'll go ahead and move on to this next story. And it looks like the son of director of the original Ghostbusters, Jason Reitman is coming back to direct a Ghostbusters 3, and we're still live.
So did you like the all-female cast Ghostbuster movie?
Nah, I mean, it was fine. I didn't hate it. It was fine, but like I'm a big fan of the original Ghostbusters and had no expectation that I was gonna like the new one as much as that.
So I'm not a big fan of the originals. I like them, but I've never been like a huge fan. I hated everything about the last one, but I absolutely loved Chris Hemsworth in every single scene he was in.
He was very funny. I can agree with that.
But as someone, I think this is a smarter move to do it. I don't know if it's necessarily. I mean, they've been talking about doing a third one for how long?
Yes.
I know Bill Murray was the big holdout for the longest time, and I'm assuming, I don't know what the script is going to be, but I'm assuming it's not going to be the original cast. It's going to be some new people.
I wonder who they would be bringing into it, and that is where it gets really tricky. It's like they already tried to do the all-female when just recently there's kind of a bad taste in everybody's mouth, so it seems like it's really early on to start trying to revamp it, but it looks like they're going the Halloween route or some shit where they like retcon the stuff that didn't work or take all of the last Ghostbusters stuff out of it and just go off the original too, which is a smart idea. But I don't know, is Bill Murray above taking a paycheck these days?
I honestly think he's one of those guys who kind of just does what he wants. I think he's at that point where he only does stuff he's really interested in.
That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
That's why he does all those like Wes Anderson films, and like it seems like he likes more of that indie type of film anymore, which I actually really respect that.
With the kind of content that we make, you'd think we were in a situation to where like we didn't have to care anymore, but like we're not successful, so we just generally don't care.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I respect anyone who can do it, not have to worry about paycheck. Eventually, I would love to be there, but who knows?
Yeah, I guess we'll let the good people decide. Would
you definitely go like on a first, like opening weekend if they do this movie? Well, when they do this movie?
Say what?
Would you go like opening weekend for a new Ghostbusters as a fan? Is it something you're interested in?
Probably. I go see a lot of stuff on opening night, so I mean, it's something that I can definitely anticipate myself going and seeing. Hannah brings up a good point, and she says if anything, the all-female sets this one up to be even better. Now that is a good call. It's at least from a critical perspective, if not from a financial perspective. Two totally different things. I think as fans, it gives us something to look forward to. However, it just is. I don't know how financially viable it's going to be, considering the taint, considering the taint on the last one. It's just a big stinky taint.
Well, I think for me, I think Ghostbusters is very similar to one of my favorite franchises of Ninja Turtles, where everyone's a diehard fan, but there's like 5 diehard fans in actuality. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, I love the original, but they're not really that invested in it. Like, there's not a people who are actively reading the Ghostbuster comics because there's a ton of there's an ongoing Ghostbusters series right now. Like, there is that fan base, but I don't think it's super mainstream. But I do agree that having a failed film probably will benefit this, because everyone's going to be like, yay, they listened to us, we're getting a film set in the right universe that we wanted, so probably will help them out quite a bit.
My buddy Houston is definitely one of the people that is like a diehard Ghostbusters fan. He loves that stuff, and he was super stoked about the last one, and he ended up liking it pretty good. Like, he didn't hate it, but I think he was definitely let down by it, as most people were. But yeah, we'll see how this one goes. I have high hopes for it. I'd like to see another good Ghostbusters movie. It's a great premise.
It really is. I mean, it can't be worse than the last one. As someone who doesn't even like Ghostbusters, the last one was just a bad movie.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so what did you think about the fact that Steven Spielberg met with Puerto Rican activists about their West Side Story concerns?
So I have a confession. I've never even watched West Side Story. I have no idea what it's about. But apparently it has some stuff that is a term that I hate, quote unquote, problematic.
It's Romeo and Juliet, only instead of Capulets and Montagues, it's Puerto Ricans and other people, maybe 2 different Puerto Rican gangs. I'm not real sure. But anyways, that's the gist of it. And they dance and stuff.
My thing is, yeah, I think it's always good if it is a dated product. Of course, you want to make sure it's not like super offensive. That being said, I'm gonna call it right now. No matter what Steven Spielberg does, you cannot you cannot appease the PC police. They're gonna come
Right.
for you no matter what. They're still gonna be mad about this movie. I'm predicting it right now. I have no idea what the movie's about, but if they're already something sensitive, they're still gonna be bugged with it.
Right. Yeah, my thing about it is that like in a lot of times it seems like it's the antithesis of what these people want. It's like if you want to bring attention to a certain group of people and expose a certain culture and all these things, film's a great opportunity to do it. If they went and hired a Puerto Rican cast, that's great. Now, should we get rid of everything that somebody says is problematic? I think that's what you and I come back to. That's what's problematic, because somebody's always going to find an issue with something. And maybe Steven Spielberg is an intelligent enough filmmaker that he's going to weave some social commentary into it and maybe even talk about what's going on in Puerto Rico today. So like before we see it, we really shouldn't criticize it. And I don't see what it is about the film or the characters themselves that's exceptionally problematic, because just because there's 35 Puerto Ricans in it, or because of America's beliefs about Puerto Ricans at the time, it can be used as a way to hold a mirror to society today. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to condone it just because it features it,
Yeah, 100%. In fact, that's I think of a movie that just popped in my head, Hidden Figures, a movie that I absolutely adore. Has some very racist talk in it, but the whole point is like, hey, this is ridiculous,
Yes, yes,
the whole
this is
point.
not okay.
I'm a firm believer of, yeah, let's not get up in arms until we see a product. But I feel like you and me are a little bit in the minority there. I think most people are more react first before they even know what they're mad about.
It could end up being a garbage movie, anyways. Like who knows? Like West Side Story, like you said, neither of us are even familiar with what it is. I know there's one scene where they've got switchblades and they're like walking at each other in an alley and they're snapping, because I've seen it parodied like a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I just pictured like Michael Jackson's
Yes. Yes.
Where they're tied together and they have the knife fight. That's what I pictured.
That's pretty much what it is. It's
okay.
It's either bad or beat it. It might. I don't know which one it is.
Cowboys have their horses.
Oh,
mountaineers.
The Cowboys have their horses. All right. So did you hear that Netflix sets its biggest subscription price hike yet?
Yeah, I understand it, because it sounds like they are paying for. They keep pumping out higher quality content, original stuff. Plus, they're buying bigger and bigger blockbusters. I mean, when Netflix started, I don't know if you remember the streaming. I actually loved it, because all it played was like, I was like one of the first people that I knew who had streaming Netflix. All it had was weird indie films and foreign films. It was my favorite Netflix had ever been to this day. But if they want to license things like Infinity War and make movies like Bird Box, or buy something, which was obviously not a cheap film.
Caleb, are you there?
I'm here. What do you think about the price update?
Yeah, I'm not happy about it, man. I'm not happy about it. It is just a small amount of money. I do agree that Netflix is creating good content, but for every good show, I feel like they're creating a dozen not good shows or movies, and that's what's happened, is that they're overstretching their reach, and because of the streaming wars, because of how many services there are, I'm finding that I watch Netflix less and less unless it's something targeted. But then again, I have access to, a good Vudu account that's got a lot of movies on it. I have HBO, I have Amazon Prime, I have Hulu, and Netflix is one of the ones that started to bother me the most, in the fact that they're canceling a lot of the good shows. Their interface has become less user-friendly because I don't like the new rating system, and there's just a couple of things like that just are like, I'll probably gladly pay the up in the subscription price this time around, but I don't know how many more times I'd be willing to do that.
I already upped my subscription anyway, because I do the 4K, so I'm already paying more. So I think mine's gonna go up to like $16 a month, which is kind of like, it used to be. Cord cutting was great because you had Netflix and Hulu. Now I'm like, I got Netflix and Hulu, and well, that's all I really have, but then I buy a lot of stuff on Vudu, so I'm probably paying a cable bill now anyway.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, not real happy about it, but at the same time, it is marginal at best at this point. So
Dude,
about this Uncharted movie, man, there's been a lot of back and forth about it. A lot of different casting rumors. Nathan Fillion even came out and made a fan film the other day. It looks like Tom Holland is actually still going to be attached to it, but they recently found a director. Is that right?
yeah, the director was, God, I cannot think of his name. I'm gonna pull it up unless you have it there. But he actually is a big gamer fan, which first of all, I don't buy um the whole fans make better versions of movies. Sometimes I think they actually make worse because they're too close to the project.
His name
But
is Dan Trachtenberg, and he directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. I
yes,
had to look it up.
I knew what he directed. Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and he was actually, I believe he was on a live stream years ago, with on a video game thing, and they were showing Uncharted, and he goes, "Yeah, this is the movie I would love to make."
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, so it's not like, so I actually think there's a lot of hope. Tom Holland, if he is being cast as Nathan Drake, I think that is pretty awful casting.
What is it about him that you don't like?
He's Unless he's playing the young version, he's just not that character at all. Like, to me, Ryan Reynolds, Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt would be the ideal choice, right?
Yeah, Chris Pratt would be perfect for that film.
Yeah,
That's the type of character.
Nathan Fillion 15 years ago. But yeah, Tom Holland has this very boyish demeanor to him and doesn't have that edge that I understand that Nathan Drake has as a character.
Yeah, Nathan Drake he definitely has that. Yeah, he's a little more edgy. He's a Han Solo character. He's
Sure.
that typical archetype that everyone loves now. And I actually love him. I think he's one of the better versions of that. Maybe Tom Holland will pull it out. To me, and maybe it is because of Spider-Man, but I just see a little boy when I look at it, and that's not who that character is. And maybe he'll grow into the role, but even like, I don't think that has anything to do with his age per se. I think it just has to do with
His
him.
demeanor. Yeah. I understand. Yeah, I'm not super well versed in the entire Uncharted universe. I do know that there's been a lot of like back and forth getting people in and out. I know Sean Levy was attached at one point to direct it. I know that there's been a lot of different names attached. Nothing seems to be sticking, and I think it's because they've been having a hard time on what direction to go because there's so much riding on this. It's a huge property, and in the past, we've just seen a whole lot of bad video game adaptations.
One of the problems with making a live action Uncharted. So Uncharted is pretty much Indiana Jones in video game format.
Sure, that's a good
So
point.
now you're making a live action movie that was based on a game that's based on a live action movie already. And I'm worried it's just gonna feel like a standard Indiana Jones wannabe. It's a very similar character. Harrison Ford would have been a great Nathan Drake in his time. Like,
as Chris Pratt would be a great Indiana Jones,
yeah.
Same kind of deal.
And I just feel like, so it's gonna be a very hard one. For me personally, I don't understand this obsession with, if something's a good video game, we need to see it in live action. I love the Uncharted games. I've beat every one of them at least twice, but they're still there. Like, I don't need to see an actor portray this. I have a great movie-like story to go to at any point in time. It's sitting on my PS4 right now.
Well, and all of this does bring up the good topic that we were going to discuss, and that's kind of video games and movies. A little bit about why the two mediums don't necessarily translate, when there's some opportunity, or when there's some examples of times that they have, and what is it about them that we could implement to make one or the other work. Tomb Raider in particular is one that we've seen this character of Lara Croft evolve so many times over the years, even in the video games and in the storylines. And then what we got in the film from audiences and divided critics. What are your thoughts on that particular franchise and the way that it's been treated in film?
So I haven't seen the new Tomb Raider, but it looks good. I think it was smart that they based it on the new version of Tomb Raider in the video games, because she's already been rebooted in the video games to be that character. The thing about, I feel like movies and video games are very, very, very removed from one another as far as what they actually accomplish differently. A movie is not interactive. So you can play great games. Some of my favorite games would make awful movies because the story and the acting isn't what makes them wonderful, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like it's not about that. Or sometimes it's they do have that, but because of the way I'll use Last of Us, another Naughty Dog game. The way the storytelling is done in that, it's all not all, but there are cutscenes, but a lot of the things that make that game special are story bits that are fed through gameplay. And you can't do that successfully in a movie sense. And I think it's a weird jump. I get that there are stories and there are a couple of games that are story heavy, Uncharted being one of them that you could actually make the case for, but a lot of them, they just don't make sense to me.
Well, it's funny you look at something novelty-based like Bandersnatch, which I was a big fan of, but the idea of choose your own adventure, you know what else you can choose your own adventure in? Video games, and you do it in like a real-time manner, whether it's a strategy game or whatever kind of genre that you're playing. So, yeah, they're so much more immersive, and sometimes I don't want to be that immersed. Sometimes movies are the perfect medium for what kind of mood that I'm in, but it is very hard to like try to emulate that experience. I do like you agree with the fact that the way that they approach the Alicia Vikander seem more true to the spirit of the character. I think they, definitely the Angelina Jolie ones were very silly, not really grounded in reality at all. And they even had those kind of Indiana Jones elements to them. Mm-hmm. Tomb Raider, that's another thing. It's very, very similar to Uncharted. You know, a lot of these games have specific movie influences. You look at something like Metal Gear. Obviously, Snake is Snake Plissken from fucking Escape from LA and Escape from New York. So these two mediums are very integrated already as it is. I mean, the future has got to be a thing like, like you and I have talked about, not like Westworld, but a mix between virtual reality and film.
100%. Like, as someone, like, it's funny that you bring up like amount of immersion. So as someone who's a huge fan of VR, as far as immersion is concerned, there's nothing like VR for me. Like, I think that is way more immersive than a 2D video game, and a video game is way more immersive than a movie.
Yes, I agree.
But do I use my VR all the time? No, because sometimes I don't want to be that immersed. Sometimes I want to play on my phone. Same thing with video game. Movies scratch a totally different itch for me.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Sometimes you don't want, like, the idea of something like the Oasis. It's like it seems appealing at first, but, like, how much of your time do you really want to spend 100% locked into something when we are so susceptible to other distractions that are in front of us all the time? Looks like we have a Bandersnatch fan in the chat. I do want to say thank you again to those of you guys that are hanging out and checking out the podcast. I don't think that I give you guys enough love and enough just gratitude for stopping by and checking it out. If you want to really help the show grow, and I've said it before, and there's no pressure to do it, but share. Help get the word out. That's the one way that other people know that this is what you're listening to, is by sharing it and say, hey, check these guys out. Obviously, we have a Patreon page as well. We'll post links for all this stuff down in the description. But all that to say, thank you very much, regardless. Just the fact that you're here means a lot to us. It's the reason why we do this week after week, is because we love talking movies, you guys. So what do you think about a video game, or excuse me, a movie that exists that, even if there's a video game made of it, that could make a perfect video game?
So my go-to is something that I've been begging someone to make a proper game, is I actually want to see the people who do the Assassin's Creed games for a very similar base. I want them to do a Ninja Turtles game, so that it has that free climbing, all co-op. Me and my brother played one of the Assassin's Creed games like that anyway. I dressed in all blue, he dressed in all red. I used swords and he used daggers.
That's awesome.
And we played the whole game like that. And the whole time we were like, this is a great game. Another game that I would love to see would be a Predator game, a free roaming open world Predator.
Yes, that is a great call, and one that I probably would have said is like that game has so much potential, almost like survival horror game, where you're out there in the middle and like you can hear them rustling around, or you can see the little like invisible cloaking thing. I think that's one that's got a whole lot of potential. Obviously, there are a couple that there were video game versions of them but they didn't work out as successfully as I would have liked to seen them. But one that hasn't been is Blade Runner. Wouldn't Blade Runner make for a really cool video game?
The closest, so I think I wouldn't want the story of Blade Runner, but I'd want something just set in the Blade Runner world, like a very cyberpunk.
Yeah,
and we're getting Cyberpunk 2077, which I think is going to be our unofficial Blade Runner game. Like that's the game I'm hoping for. Like it looks like an unofficial, because that world is, for me, Blade Runner is one of the best cinematic worlds.
Oh yeah,
ever created.
Absolutely. So, of all of the video game adaptations, let's name a couple of our favorites. They can be guilty pleasures. They can be ones that you actually think are pretty fucking good. First of all, I got to start it off with Mortal Kombat, the original. I saw it like 4 or 5 times in the theaters. I love the techno soundtrack. It's a fucking god-awful movie, but boy, oh boy, did I love watching it.
That's, I agree. So that's a horrible movie. Those and the Street Fighters are just awful, but Mortal Kombat's better than Street Fighter. But they're just like fun. There's really no story, but it's a Mortal Kombat game. It's about fighting each other. There's really no story that much anyway.
It really could have used the R-rated treatment. That's something that I would still really like to see, is a Mortal Kombat game or a movie that embraces the true spirit of Mortal Kombat, which we got a very watered-down version, very family-friendly almost version of something that clearly wasn't that. So I'd still like to see a bloody graphic version of Mortal Kombat that's just really strictly focused on the fight scenes. I think they could do some cool shit with that. Let's see, what's another good one?
For me, the Resident Evil franchise, they're bad, but I love all of them? I love all the movies. They're all bad.
Nice. I watched the first one quite a few times.
They're garbage movies, and they literally throw out pretty much all the lore of Resident Evil and just rewrite it and do their own thing with it. But I'm a sucker for monsters. I'm a sucker for zombies. It has it all. It has some cool fight scenes. I love those movies. They're bad, but I love them.
One of the worst, best to watch is Blood Rain. It's a U-Bowls movie, and it is so awful that you can't help but love it. I didn't see Rampage or Warcraft or Prince of Persia, any of these ones that I
saw all of those except for Rampage.
Any of them good?
No, they're awful.
I might watch Rampage, man.
Warcraft. So Warcraft is weird because every scene that is completely CG is wonderful. Every scene that has actors in it is horrible. I don't know. I'd have to look. They feel like they're two different directors and then they just cut them together. And it's bizarre because when I started watching it, I was like, I actually really, really enjoy this. And I think the director, what's his name? He's the guy who directed Moon, I believe. Is the director
yeah, Duncan Jones.
Yeah, I think he's a good director. I mean, that and Mute are pretty bad, but like I think he's a good director. So I don't know what happened because that's a weird. It's almost worth watching to see how unbalanced it is because every time there's orcs on screen, it's a great film. Every time there's humans, it's a bad film. I don't know where the disconnect was. And then what was the other one? You said Rampage and.
Oh shit! I dropped the page.
I forgot what the other one was, but I saw the other one too. Did you ever see The House of Dead?
House of the Dead, yeah, where they actually cut two clips from the video game in it.
Yes,
that's so bad
too, as well, isn't it?
Yes, it was. Of course. Hannah says it might be a bit of a cheap shot, but those Pokemon animated movies are a solid slice of childhood. I think that's fair. I don't know that you can consider Pokemon based on a video game, but it is based on a game, and I agree that those are pretty solid.
Well, it's based on a video game. That was the first thing.
The first thing was a video game?
Yep, it's a Nintendo video game, so that was the first thing.
Hannah, a Final Fantasy adaptation. The Spirits Within was not that good, but there was a follow-up to it that actually was closer. It had Cloud in it.
Advent Children?
Yeah, Advent Children was pretty good, but I would love to see an actual live-action version of Final Fantasy. I say I would. We'll see. We'll see if we ever get a good one.
Yeah, as a Final Fantasy fan, I like them, but I'm not even a fan. I've played them, but I've never played them like that religiously. Played 1 or 2 here or there. I like them. I think there's aspects. I actually didn't like Advent Children. I thought it was beautiful to look at, but I thought it was a pretty awful movie. I would say
that's fair.
It's almost even a little worse than Spirits Within for me, which is, but that doesn't even feel like this Final Fantasy movie.
It does not.
It has nothing to do with Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I don't know that I could even tell you about the plot of Advent Children. I was just so happy with the fact that it looked and felt like Final Fantasy VII. I was like, hell yeah, dude. I mean, it was no Mario Brothers. Yikes. But,
so they're supposed to make a computer-generated, a CG Mario movie, I heard, but I don't know if that's ever going to see the light of day.
And then we've got Detective Pikachu coming up and Sonic coming up, and they're both kind of similar in vibe and tone. So there's plenty on the horizon. I think everybody's trying to crack the code of how to make a successful one.
What did you think of the Detective Pikachu trailer?
I didn't like it.
What?
Dude, there's something about Ryan Reynolds voicing anything now that's just like, oh, fuck, that's Ryan Reynolds or that's Deadpool. And I hate that because he's really talented and it's not fair to him. But to have Pikachu and Deadpool have the same voice, it's just fucking weird to me.
As someone who doesn't like Pokemon, I don't care about it at all. I absolutely loved the Detective Pikachu trailer. Nice. I'm so excited for that movie.
Nice. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. Let that be the last thing that we hear you say this episode of the podcast.
Something very positive about a very childish movie. That's
sir. Rare. Love it. It's that way Ian can't say you're hate about everything, man. He's excited about Pokemon, Ian.
I'm very excited.
We're going to catch them all.
I play Pokemon Go.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. It's been real and it's been fun and it's been terrible. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Take just a second. Smash that little thumbs up button down there. It really helps us grow the channel. If you want to stay up to date with all of the content, then all you got to do is subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and cross your fingers that you get notified when we drop a new video, because sometimes they're known to get demonetized because somebody doesn't know how to use proper language. Caleb and Jeremy.
Oh, man. Do they demonetize for that now?
Who gives a fuck? Anyways, thank you guys. And until next time, be terrible. Peace.